From KAMR Local 4 News, your local election headquarters, this is Politics Today.
We're getting closer to the May 3rd election, and we sit down with candidates in the Amarillo mayor and council contested races. And controversy surrounding the range continues. Now the nonprofit in question is speaking out on what they say are false claims. Good morning and welcome to Politics Today. Early voting for the May 3rd election has started, and we're hearing from Amarillo mayor and city council candidates. Last week we had place 1 and 3. Today let's cover the rest of the contested races. We'll start with Amarillo mayor. Current Mayor Cole Stanley is looking to be re-elected. We tried to set up an interview with the mayor, but schedules couldn't line up. But we do have an article on our website which details his background and plans if re-elected. He's going against Misty Collier, Jason Herrick, and Luke Merrick. Here's a little bit from their interview with us.
What are some other problems that you see maybe in the Amarillo area that need to be addressed?
Well, I mean, there's the obvious, potholes in streets and, people want this building to look better but I think that if we build our city from the inside out and focus on small businesses instead of bringing all these big businesses in and giving them free stuff, could you imagine if we gave all of our small businesses that have been here for 20 or 30 years help to progress and be more productive and actually do better? Then our city would grow from within instead of companies coming here, staying here for a few years and then leaving once their benefits are out, Plus, I feel like there's a very large part of the community that, because I've worked with different types of people, that I feel like I could represent everyone across the board. Plus, I have never been overly wealthy, So I feel like I represent the poor community more than I do the wealthy. But that doesn't mean that I don't feel like we can work with both. I just feel like our poor community is overlooked. So I feel like I would be the better candidate as far as to work with them.
My main ideas that we're going to really work on is, first off, we're going to get really focused on our infrastructure and our streets needs. We've got a situation here where we have ignored and not fully funded our street repair. And listen, we've got a situation now on water with our wastewater treatment plant that is really, really serious. And we have kicked the can down the road so far that we're under absolutely a total need to get after this. So within my first 120 days, we're going to have a comprehensive infrastructure that will present to the citizens, that'll prioritize, that will lay out what the costs are, and we'll start working a plan to go get those infrastructure needs taken care of. I honestly believe at the end of the day, people, that's what they really care about. That's what you're being elected to go do. And so that's what we want to spend time on really doing. But secondly, we absolutely have to work on bringing jobs. Unfortunately, our AEDC has just been gutted in the past year or so. And that's really our one arrow in the quiver to try to go bring in new jobs, and particularly manufacturing jobs. So we've got to work on that. We've got to reestablish that. Those are long-term relationships. And unfortunately, we're watching as these other West Texas cities like Lubbock, we can go drive down to Lubbock or go down to Abilene. Abilene just scored a $500 billion investment in the Stargate project that President Trump put together. Those types of things are available, and unfortunately Amarillo has been sitting on the sideline, and we absolutely should be the hub for manufacturing, for transportation, and for agriculture at the end of the day.
So I not only want to improve the quality of the roads, but the safety of them as well, which is something I haven't seen the other candidates stress as much.
Okay.
And there's a lot of other issues like the lights being timed and how we get around without a car as well.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people who don't have a car, have to get around with bike, and they don't have a lot of options here.
Yeah, so pedestrian walkways, some of the bike routes, that kind of stuff that you're talking about.
And I noticed that a lot of the intersections will tell you to walk when the cars have a protected left, so everyone's confused and mad at each other.
Yeah.
So everyone thinks they have the right of way.
Okay. Any other issues that you think are important in this election cycle that the voters need to know your stance on?
One thing that's important to me is zoning. I'm a big fan of mixed-use zoning,
Okay.
so people can choose if they want to, say, build an apartment or build a business on their
Okay.
piece of property.
You can watch these and our other candidate interviews in full. Those are over at myhighplains.com. Up next, we'll cover our final Amarillo mayor and council race. This is for place 3, where another incumbent is looking for another chance to represent the city. Welcome back. We're covering Amarillo City Council and mayoral races you'll vote on as we get closer to May 3rd. Let's go to place 4. Current Councilman Les Simpson is looking for another term. He's challenged by Leif Curtis and Sylvia Steppens. Here's a little bit from each of their interviews.
Running again, so there's some unfinished business. Let's talk about some of the things that maybe you didn't get done in that first term that you feel like need to get done the second time around.
Yeah, I think continuing the work that we have done, being able to focus on that. There's a couple other things that we've got to be able to continue to do. We weren't able to make as much headway on kind of the street and road repairs as we would have liked to. We did find about more than $30 million of bond money that had not been spent from 2016. If you remember back in 2016, voters approved a bond issue. We were ready to issue more debt to pay for additional road work last year, but what we found out is you can't do that until we'd spent a certain amount of that money that was issued back in 2016. So you can't issue more debt until you spend off a lot of that. So the bad news is we couldn't issue the additional debt. The good news is we did find that $30+ million, and we began spending that immediately. As we spin that down to meet the IRS and Treasury Department regulations of how much we have to spend, once we get there, then we've developed a plan where each year, for about $1.2 to $1.4 million, we can fund $12 to $14 million of road work each year.
What change do you want to see in City Council?
I don't want to take anything away from what City Council's done. They've done a great job in the previous 2 years. But what I keep hearing is a lot of the same, right? We're going to keep doing a lot of the same. To me, a lot of the same right now means that we're going to keep playing catch up, right? We need to be coming up with initiatives that are going to move us in front of other cities. Because if we're always behind the 8 ball, then we're always reacting, whether that's with infrastructure, whether that's with our first responders raises, whether that's with city raises, our city employees raises. Anything and everything, we need to start trying to lead in innovation, lead in anything that we can. We need to be a place that people want to come to.
And you're running against Les Simpson for place number 4. Can you tell me, what do you think you could bring that's different from what he has already brought to City Council?
Anybody can write policy, right? We can sit up there and write policy all day long. And a lot of the council members you'll hear say that they want to let Grayson do his job, and Grayson does a great job. I'm not asking to go into any sort of department to run their department. What I am going to do is I'm going to be a resource for them. I'm going to be actual boots on the ground. I'm also going to be someone who's going to have accountability for those people as well, for the things that are going on. I mean, the AEDC, I'm sure, is a hot topic that people are going to want to talk about. There needs to be accountability within that, not trying to move it to the side.
The only reason I am running for city council is because I feel like I have a lot to offer the city of Amarillo in improving my life and the life of many people here in the city. First of all, I would like to see an increase in public safety, which we often see a lot of places. I don't think an area can be too safe. So I have come up with 2 public safety plans that I have talked to key people in the Amarillo Police Department about. I have extensive experience with police officers, several of them in different departments, and I've started doing things with the Amarillo Police Department. For one thing, I am a graduate of the 33rd Amarillo Citizens Academy as of November 2024. So right now we are giving and taking information from each other about these plans. It's the very early stages, but we have met about them, and I would love to see them come to pass in Amarillo and partner with the Amarillo Police Department in doing that.
Having moved to Amarillo in 2023, What is it that you love about Amarillo?
Many of the same things I love about the South. I love the people, I love the food, and I love the Dallas Cowboys.
The Range has been the center of issues between the Amarillo City Council and Economic Development Corporation.
We are here because we're a political football.
Now a founding member of the Range is speaking out on what she calls false claims. Welcome back. The Range has been the center of issues between the Amarillo City Council and the Economic Development Corporation. Now a founding member is speaking out on what she calls false claims the AEDC Board Chairman Alex Fairley has made. Jack Kessler has more.
We are here because we're a political football today. We would rather not be a political football because we have work to do, and we're doing what we're supposed to do, and we're doing it on a timeline that is timely according to those who do this all over the United States.
Laura Street is board vice president of The Range, a nonprofit growth engine working to bring industry and education together for local economic development. She says over the last few months there has been a lot of heated rhetoric, campaign statements, and public accusations related to The Range. She says AEDC interim chairman Alex Fairley has been a big part of it. She claims the claims are just not true.
The issue that is foremost in my mind are the accusations that I have been contacted by Mr. Alex Fairley and have not responded to his calls, and that I have been invited to meetings and not shown up. And this is frankly this is false information. I've not received one email, one call, one text from Mr. Fairley, and neither has the staff or the board of directors. Mr. Fairley chooses to work through intermediaries to ask a question, and that's it.
Street claimed at the news conference The Range lost $6 million in state funding.
We were on a line item of the legislative appropriations budget through the Texas Department of Agriculture. Mr. Fairley communicated with the commissioner of the TDA, and that money was pulled. That $6 million that was coming to Amarillo and the Panhandle of Texas to benefit wildfire prevention, workforce development, and water issues.
We asked Fairley about this. He sent us a statement which reads in part, "The Texas Ag Commissioner reached out to me to inquire about The Range as a result of their request for state funding. I simply told him I have concerns about The Range. The truth is, in light of how they have handled themselves, I cannot in good conscience sit by and endorse them." We reached out to Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller's office regarding this line item allegation, and we have not heard back. There is a group of people saying The Range needs to return money to the taxpayers. Street addresses that.
No one took money from the AEDC. The AEDC launched The Range, which started out to be the Amarillo Global Food Hub. And that launch was as a consensus of the board of the AEDC, and the council had been discussing it. The AEDC launched a nonprofit.
Mayoral candidate Jason Herrick is also board president of The Range.
We started the organization. Jason Herrick became part of it after that, so he was nowhere near that conversation. He did not take the money.
In Amarillo, Jack Kessler, KAMR Local 4 News.
Fairley sent us a statement saying in part, quote, "I will stay focused on helping Cole Stanley, Tom Sherlin, and Tim Reed overcome the massive amount of campaign money raised by this group who desperately want to be back in control of our city and the AEDC. Regarding The Range, my opinion remains the same. Jason Herrick and David Prescott should return the $650,000, end quote. Fairley mentioned Prescott in his comment, so we did some research. Prescott even told us in his interview he donated $25,000 at a membership level. He said if there was something going on with the AEDC, he'd want his money back. His campaign told us, quote, "I never received money from the AEDC. The idea that I should return money I never received is dishonest and manipulative," end quote. The City Council voted on a permanent AEDC board this week. Alex Fairley got 4 of the 5 votes. Deepak Patel is currently on the board. His term ends next year. Elliot McKinney was passed in a 4-1 vote from a term ending in 2027. Dean Crump's nomination passed 3-1 to 1 for a 3-year term, and former Councilman Randy Burkett's nomination passed 4-1 for a 1-year term. To see all of the press conferences, the City Council meeting, and the responses from all involved, go to myhighplains.com. Lawmakers in Austin continue discussion about the Education Savings Account measure as it slowly makes its way to the governor's desk. We'll hear from Representative John Smithee about what this bill means for our area.
Representative for District 86, John Smithee, joining me now in studio. Representative Smithee, I know that you all have been busy, a busy time down in Austin. How is the latest legislative session treating you?
The session's going well, and it's been a good session so far for rural Texas, which is something we really needed in rural Texas.
Well, let's dive into that. A couple of the things that some of those landmark bills that have been passed so far that's going to help rural Texas.
Well, you know, first of all was the voucher bill, because for years we've been telling our local superintendents and school boards that we just don't have the political clout in Austin to get a fair funding formula for small rural schools. The votes just aren't in rural Texas anymore. They're in the urban and suburban areas, and the funding formulas reflected that. And so the voucher debate gave us an opportunity, because they had to have some rural votes to pass vouchers. It gave us the opportunity to negotiate, basically to get a better funding structure, permanent structure for rural schools. And so the structure that has been adopted and as part of the voucher plan is a good one that will really help our local schools.
Well, and I think we need to dive into that, because when you see that at first, especially when our area, I think the top 26 counties, we have 14 accredited private schools. Yep. So there's not that many options. So when people see this being like on the news all the time about this voucher program and how it was going to help those rural communities, your Herefords, your Dalharts, your Vegas, what kind of impact will it have on those communities?
Well, it'll have a big impact financially on the local school districts, from Amarillo all the way down. You know, Amarillo is the largest school district, obviously, in the Panhandle. Amarillo will get about $16 million a year in new funding. Now, that's a lot of money, and $16 million above what they would have gotten under current law. And then you go down from there. The smaller school districts don't get as much total, but they get substantially more per student. And this was critical in school districts. I'll give you a couple examples would be Adrian and Channing, for example. Very small school districts, less than 200 students. The economy of scale is very difficult in those communities. Right. And they're going to get a significant amount of funding that probably in the long term will keep those schools open in those communities. And this is something that was long overdue. We really needed it, and I think it's going to be a good thing.
The school choice bill passed the Senate a few days ago and is headed to the governor's desk. We've got more with Representative on myhighplains.com. Known for his groundbreaking steps to honor the poor, the vulnerable, and seeking to end world conflicts, the world mourns the passing of Pope Francis. So let's talk about what happened. The Vatican says he died of a stroke that put him into a coma and led to heart failure. His legacy had mixed reactions, some saying it was a breath of fresh air to the Catholic faith, others saying he was too progressive. His funeral was Saturday, and he will be buried at St. Mary's Basilica, home to the Virgin Mary. You can stay up to date on the latest political news with us this week, including polling locations and sample ballots. We have continuing coverage on myhighplains.com. Plus, check us out on Alexa, Instagram, and like us on Facebook. We'll be back after the break.